English 1 students, this is a video for the word sector. Sector. So the word sector has a couple of meanings, and let's see what they are. So both meanings of sector are nouns, and so one meaning, it says an area or portion that is distinct from others, distinto from others. So this is most often used in a one specific way. It's most often used to talk about the economy, la economía. So if you think about the whole economy, everybody who works, everybody who spends money, who all the places that they spend money, and everybody who gets money for a job, etc. Um, all of that is the economy, right? It's huge, trillions of dollars. So, but the economy can be divided into different parts, different areas. And so one way we can divide it is we can divide it into public sector. Well, two big divisions are public sector and private sector. And public sector means the government. So that means government money. So it means either people work for the government, they work for the public sector. That means public sector is another way to say the government. Es otra manera de decir el gobierno, public sector. People work for that public sector. They have jobs in the public sector. You can also talk about public sector spending, which means when the government spends money to buy something, right? On the other hand, private sector is all private companies, all the private companies in the whole country, or in any country. You look at any country, it will have this division: public sector. Private sector is companies. And then there is one other thing actually, which I didn't put here, with that system of sectors, which is you have public, private, and then there's one other sector which is non-profit. Non-profit, which is like associations that help people, and that's not exactly. It's different because it's not government, but it's also not a company. Private sector means a company that makes money. Non-profit sector, it's an organization that exists to help people, not to make money. And then also you can talk about sectors, like if we say something like transportation sector, what is that? That's kind of like industry, but it's like even bigger than an industry. Es más o menos como una industria, pero más grande que eso. Entonces, so if we say transportation sector, that includes different industries like, car companies that make cars. It also includes companies that make airplanes. It also includes airlines, bus companies, gas stations. All of them are involved in transportation. So it's a sector is like a big piece of the economy. Es una gran parte de la economía. Y so un sistema es como público y public sector, private sector, and non-profit sector. And then something like transportation sector is going to be one part of the private sector. So that means private sector is companies. Esas son todas las compañías. Y esas compañías se pueden dividir en otros sectors que son más todavía grandes, pero forman parte de eso. Por ejemplo, like I said, transportation sector is todas las compañías que trabajan con transportation, que es algo muy grande. It's very big. Transportation is very big. So like I said, you also might hear people talk about industries, industrias. That's a little more specific, right? Like when I was listing earlier, I said, for example, companies that make cars, car companies, Ford Motor Company is Ford, GM, the big companies make cars, right? That is the car industry or the automobile industry. The automobile industry is one part of the transportation sector. Transportation sector would include things like I said, also all kinds of transportation, not just cars. So basically, what is this in this meaning? Big piece, big section of the economy, a big section of the economy. And so if we look, and Spanish translation is sector or zona. The second definition, it says a part of a particular area, especially an area under military control. So that one is more like physical space, a physical area that you divide something into. And we'll get to that in a minute. So synonyms for sector: zone, area, part, or region. And I have a couple of sentences with the first definition. So here is one. This is the one that is related in some way to English class. So this would be what you would copy on cards if we were making people do cards, like we do when you're not online. This sentence is talking about English teachers. So English teachers in public schools like me work in the public sector because they work for the government. We get our paycheck from the government, not from a company. So for that reason, we can say we work in the public sector. Okay. Here is another sentence with the same idea, talking about scientists who work in the private sector, for example, in biotechnology companies, can make more money than those who work in the public sector. So private sector companies, public sector government. Okay, and so like, yeah, if you look at something like biotechnology, that would be an industry. That's an industry. But if you look at the sector, would be, for example, all of technology. Toda la tecnología es muy grande. Eso también, no hay oración con eso, pero se puede decir también the technology sector because it's very big and includes many different industries. Okay, that's a sector. If you're wanting to make a sentence with this, I think easy one is public sector or private sector. So anyone who works for the government, they have a job in the public sector. Anyone who works for anybody else that's not the government and it's not a nonprofit organization, any business anybody who works in any business, that's private sector. Okay. Here is an example with a second definition. So, like I said, this is a part of a particular area. It's physical division of an area. It says especially an area under military control, and it's not in the definition, but also police use this. So, like when they divide up. So this is an example on this map on the right is a town. I think it's in Massachusetts, and they're saying if they're dividing up where their police officers are going to go, and they have their town and they divide it into parts. And they're like, okay, these two officers go to sector 1, and there's number 1, that's on the map, that part. And then other officers have another sector, which is, what is it? It's like the area that they're in charge of, that they have to drive around and patrol and check that people are not breaking the law. So it's used often, this meaning of sector is like that for the police, or like I said, also military. If military is and military people, soldiers are controlling an area, they would divide it up and they would say, in this sector, these soldiers go to this sector, which means it's their part that they are in charge of, they're in control of. So that's how sector is used there. So yeah, it's a pretty specific word. Like I said, it's because if you look at the definition, it says a part of something, but it's really specific. It's usually either the economy, or this one is about police or military dividing an area physically, dividiendo una área físicamente en partes. And also, I should mention, it's not on your card, but it also has a math meaning. And a math meaning is like if you take one piece of a circle, I'm pretty sure that's what that is. That's called a sector. In math, like in geometry. That's another meaning of it. Okay, that's it for the video for today. And thank you very much.